Hey guys, welcome back to Revealing the Biblical Truths. In this video, we'll be covering Jubilees Chapters 7 through 9. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications. So in the last video, we went over chapters 5 and 6, where we talked about Noah's flood and the calendar. In this section, we'll be looking at the post-flood, at Noah's sons and the land grants given to each son. At the beginning of chapter 7, Noah plants a vineyard on Mount Lubar, which is the mountain that the ark rested on. It continues to say that Noah harvested the grapes and made wine, and then offered burnt offerings on an altar. The wine was being made on the first day of the 5th year of the Jubilee. Following this, Noah became drunk and lay down to sleep, when his son Ham saw him naked. His brothers found out, and walking backwards they covered their father's shame, and then Ham's son Canaan was cursed. And while it does not say this here, there are some who speculate that Ham had intercourse with Noah's wife. This is because other passages of Scripture say that uncovering your father's nakedness or shame is slang for having intercourse with your father's wife, or another relative. After this, all three sons founded cities and named them after their wives. Shem's city was on the east of the mountain, Ham's city was on the south side, and Japheth's city was on the west side. Noah then pleads with his sons and grandchildren to keep the right way in the laws, citing the sin of the watchers which produced the giants, including intercourse and blood. There were all kinds of different giants, and they killed each other off. It is then told them again to refrain from eating blood and murdering. Then Yah shifts focus and tells us about the law regarding fruit trees. He says not to gather the fruit for the first 3 years, but in the 4th year they can gather it, and also offer firstfruits offerings. Following this, the servants can partake, and it is released to everyone in the 5th year. In verse 39, there's an interesting note. It says that Enoch testified to his sons and his sons' sons until the day of his death. There is actually an idea here that Enoch died. Hebrews 11 verse 13 also states that all of these, including Enoch, all died in faith, not having received the promise. One can argue that he was indeed taken to heaven, but perhaps he was brought back down from heaven after receiving the visions. And the phrase about him not seeing death can be explained in 2 ways. Firstly, that he was saved from a spiritual death because of his faith, so he will not see that death. Secondly, it could also be that he didn't see physical death at that time because he was taken into heaven, but later could have died. In any case, there are 2 witnesses in the text now that suggest that he did die. I'm not leaning any way because I can see it both ways, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. In chapter 8, we have an interesting story of a guy named Canaan, who was the son of Arphaxad. In verses 3 and 4, it states, "And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what there was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teachings of the watchers, and according with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars, and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down, and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it." In the Masoretic text, the King James and other modern translations, Canaan is not even mentioned. He has been removed from the genealogy completely. It goes right from Arphaxad to Selah, whereas here it has Arphaxad, then Canaan, and then Canaan had Selah. I find this very interesting. Perhaps the authors decided to remove him because they're writings that he found, or there's an agenda to remove the watchers from the Bible. After this, it goes through several genealogies, and then in the 33rd Jubilee, the earth was divided up into 3 areas, one for each of Noah's sons, which they took for themselves as their homelands. Shem was to take the middle of the earth, from the Ural Mountains over to Turkey and down to Saudi Arabia. Everything to the north of that became Japheth's lot, and Shem's lot continues to go to the Nile and then east over all of Eden and then back to the Ural Mountains again. As for Ham's lot, he took everything south of the Nile and Eden, and then west all the way to the west part of Africa. So basically all of Africa was to be his, and perhaps part of Arabia. Now Japheth was to take everything north of the Euphrates River, including Europe and Russia and the Caucasus. It is said that Japheth's lot was cold, Ham's lot was hot, and Shem's was neither cold nor hot, but a blend. I wonder about this and if it's symbolic of more than just temperature. In chapter 9, Noah's sons give out their land to their sons for an inheritance. Ham gave Cush the area of Ethiopia and Sudan, Mizraim got Egypt, Put got Libya, and Canaan was supposed to get Morocco and the western part of Africa. For the sons of Shem, Elam got the area east of the Tigris, including India. Ashur got Assyria, Iraq, and Iran. Arphaxad got the land around the Euphrates River and Lebanon and part of Syria. Aram got the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates, and Lud got the land between the mountains of Assyria and the Mediterranean Sea. As for Japheth's sons, Gomer got Germany and western Russia. Madai got the portion west, including some of the Greek Isles and Turkey, and Yawan got Greece and Italy. Tubal got the portion north of Lebanon up to the mountains with some rivers. Meshech got most of Russia, being the root word for Moscow. Tiras got the main islands in the Mediterranean such as Crete, Cyprus, Sicily, and Sardinia. Tyrus' descendants became known as the Thracians. At the end of the chapter, all of these took an oath to take the land given to them, and only those areas, or else be under a curse. In the next video, we'll be discussing what happened after that and go into chapter 10. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Shalom.